when you give, you're actually giving to yourself first. That you're actually serving yourself first. Now that might seem strange. This is charity. It's giving to others. But the reality is that when you support these types of causes, you're actually helping yourself first, even before you're helping others. Exactly how we have to realize that anything that happens to others can also hit home. And if it doesn't happen to me, it can happen to my husband. And if it doesn't happen to my husband, it can happen to my father or my sister. It can happen close to home. And so the first thing we have to realize is that no one is immune to calamity. No one is immune to tragedy. No one is immune to tests, right? We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that in this life, we will be tested, right? Everyone knows this. We will be tested. Now, how will that test come? We don't know. But no one is immune to tests. And so when we hear these types of stories, they should shake us for a few reasons. First, because another human being is being harmed. Another human being is being dealt with in an unjust fashion. But there's another step that we need to realize, and that is that could be my family. And I want it to come home, and the reason I want to bring it home is because essentially human beings are motivated by one thing, and this is all human beings, regardless of faith, regardless of where you were raised, regardless of how much money you have. Every human being wants self-preservation and the preservation of their family. They want safety, yeah? Every human being wants well-being and happiness, and every human being wants to be protected from harm. Regardless of faith, that's what we all are motivated for, right? The Prophet ﷺ said that no wealth is decreased through sadaqah. Do you know that's very, very deep? No wealth is decreased through sadaqah. So you're not losing your money when you give it to Allah. But I'm going to tell you something else. I'm actually going to tell you that you increase your money when you give it for Allah's sake. That's really interesting phenomenon. You know this concept of investment banking, investments, right? I don't know nothing about it, right? But if I were up here and I was an investment specialist, I would tell you, look guys, you put this much into investment and you'll grow your money, right? But there's like certain things. Now you guys are adults, so you can maybe understand that concept. But if I were telling a little kid, 5-year-old kid who just got allowance of $10, hey, give me that $10 and I'll invest it. That kid will think what? No. Why? Because that kid thinks they're losing that $10. You guys understanding? Why? Because the child doesn't understand the concept of investment. If it's not in my hand, it must be lost. That's what the child thinks. Sometimes we have that same understanding of money. We don't realize that when you give for Allah's sake, you are investing that money. You're not losing it. You're not losing it. In fact, the only money you're losing is the one that you're keeping in your bank, because eventually you're going to your grave and that money is not coming back with you. It's the money you invested with Allah that comes back to you. And wallahi, it comes back in this life multifold before the next. Isn't that amazing? This is the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He tells you to give. Look what He does. He tells you to give. First, He gives you happiness just by giving, right? He gives you happiness. It feels good to give. In fact, it's one of the most reliable ways to be happy is to give, is to serve. And not only does He make you feel good, He will give you back that money in this life, not the same, but multiplied. And that's a promise. And not only that, He will give it back to you in the grave, and He will give it back to you on the Day of Judgment. Look at the generosity of Allah. So wouldn't I be foolish to not take that deal? It's a pretty good deal, right?